The shuttle docked with a tired shudder, metal ringing through the narrow corridor like a sigh of relief. Elias Mercer stayed seated for a moment longer than needed, hands resting on his knees, eyes fixed on the dim strip lights overhead. Long travel always left him feeling stretched thin, like he had been pulled through space instead of carried. This station was supposed to be simple. Deliver a message, confirm a trade route, leave. That was the plan. Kepra Station did not feel simple. When the hatch finally opened, warm, recycled air rushed in, carrying a mix of machine oil, ozone, and something faintly sweet that Elias could not place. He stood, grabbed his small bag, and stepped out. The docking bay was narrow and oddly quiet. No crowd, no noise. Just the low hum of systems working too hard to keep everything alive. A figure waited near the exit. She was tall by human standards, slim, with skin that held a soft blue-gray tone like moonlight through fog. Her eyes were large and reflective, catching the light as she tilted her head. She wore a simple station uniform, smooth fabric wrapped neatly around her frame. "Envoy Elias Mercer," she said. Her voice was calm, musical, and carefully neutral. "I am Lyrics. I have been assigned to guide you during your stay." Elias nodded. "Good to meet you. I was told this station is small." Lyrics's lips curved slightly. "Efficient," she corrected. "We do not waste space." That became clear very quickly. The corridors were tight, designed for function, not comfort. Pipes ran openly along the walls. The lights dimmed and brightened in slow cycles that made Elias feel like he was walking through a breathing creature. As they moved, he noticed the lack of other people. A few figures passed at a distance, alien shapes and colors, but no one lingered. No one spoke. "You're quieter than expected," Elias said. Lyrics walked a half step ahead of him. "The station is entering night cycle. Most residents are resting." "So early." "Our day is shorter than yours." That answer felt thin. Elias stored it away without comment. They reached a sealed door near the outer ring. Lyrics placed her palm against a panel. The door slid open with a soft hiss. The room beyond was small, very small. A single bed was built into the wall, narrow but clean. A small table folded down beneath a screen. One chair. One light strip, that was it. No divider, no second bed, no couch. Elias stopped in the doorway. Lyric stepped inside and gestured calmly. "These will be your quarters." Elias blinked. "I think there's been a mistake." She looked at him, genuinely curious. "How so? There's only one bed." "Yes," she said, as if confirming the sky was still above them. "I was told I'd have private accommodations." Lyrics tilted her head again, a gesture he was starting to recognize as thought. "This is private." "For one person," Elias said carefully. She paused, just for a moment, then she nodded. "Yes, normally." "Normally, the station is near capacity," she said. Temporary adjustments were made. Elias exhaled slowly. He had slept in worse places, much worse. Still, something about the way she spoke felt rehearsed, too smooth. "And you?" he asked. "I will remain here as well." He raised an eyebrow. "That wasn't in the briefing." "There are many things not in briefings," Lyrics replied. The door slid shut behind him before he could respond. The seal engaged with a soft click that sounded far too final. Elias set his bag down and turned, scanning the room again, as if a second bed might magically appear. It did not. "Look," he said, keeping his voice calm. "I don't want to cause trouble, but humans have certain expectations about personal space." Lyric studied him. Her eyes moved in small, precise motions like she was reading something invisible. "I am aware," she said. "Your species places high value on boundaries. Then you understand why this is a problem." She considered that. "I understand why you think it is a problem." That was not comforting. The lights dimmed slightly, shifting into the station's night cycle. A low hum filled the room, deeper than before. "What happens if I say no?" Elias asked. Lyrics met his gaze. "Then you will remain awake in a chair for approximately 6 hours until the cycle resets." He glanced at the chair. It looked uncomfortable in a way only metal could manage. "And you?" he asked. "I do not require rest in the same way," she said, "but I prefer to observe." That made his skin prickle. "Observe what?" She did not answer right away. Instead, she moved toward the bed and sat on the edge, posture relaxed, hands folded loosely in her lap. "You are tense," she said. "That is expected." "Being trapped in a room with a stranger will do that," Elias replied. "We are not strangers," Lyrics said softly. "You are human, you are an envoy, you are curious even when you pretend not to be, you are careful with your words but your eyes move first." Elias frowned. "You've known me for 10 minutes, she smiled. "That is sufficient." The station hummed again, slightly louder this time. Elias felt it through the soles of his boots. "You said this station was entering night cycle," he said. "What exactly does that mean?" "It means activity decreases, systems adjust, and certain evaluations begin." "Evaluations?" Lyrics looked at him for a long moment. Then she patted the space beside her on the bed. "You may sit," she said, "or stand, the choice is yours." Elias weighed his options. Standing for 6 hours was not appealing. The chair was worse. With a quiet sigh, he moved to the bed and sat, leaving a careful distance between them. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the lights dimmed further. The air temperature shifted, becoming slightly warmer. Elias noticed it right away. Humans were good at noticing changes that might mean trouble. Lyrics leaned back against the wall, stretching her legs out along the bed. Her shoulder brushed his arm. He stiffened. She noticed. "Apologies," she said, but she did not move away. Instead, she adjusted slightly closer. "Is this part of the evaluation?" Elias asked. "Yes," she said simply. "And what are you evaluating?" "How humans respond when plans change," Lyrics replied. "When comfort is removed, when closeness is unavoidable." Elias let out a short laugh. "You could have just asked. That would alter the result. Figures." The hum of the station deepened again, almost like a heartbeat. Elias became aware of subtle vibrations beneath the bed, through the wall, through everything. Lyrics shifted once more, this time deliberately sliding closer until her side rested lightly against his. Her body was warm, warmer than he expected. Not unpleasant, just surprising. His first instinct was to pull away. His second was to stay still. His third was to ask a question that probably mattered more than his comfort. "Is this test supposed to make us fail?" he asked. Lyrics looked at him then, really looked at him. Her eyes reflected the dim light, making it hard to tell where the pupil ended. "No," she said. "It is supposed to show us what you are, and if you don't like what you see, then future contact will be limited." That got his attention. "So this is bigger than one uncomfortable night." "Yes." Elias leaned back slightly, staring at the ceiling. "You know," he said, "humans have been tested our entire history, by nature, by ourselves, by others." "I know," Lyrics said, "we don't always react the same way twice. That is what makes you difficult." "And interesting," Elias added. Her lips curved again. "Yes." Another subtle shift, and she was closer still, her arm now resting along his side. It felt natural to her. To Elias, it felt like standing on the edge of something unseen. "You're very calm about this," he said. "I am curious," Lyrics replied. "And I am learning. About humans." "About closeness," she said. "About choice." He turned his head slightly, meeting her gaze. "Choice matters to us." "I am beginning to understand that," she said. The station lights dimmed to their lowest setting, bathing the room in soft shadows. Outside the wall, something distant moved, heavy and slow. Elias took a slow breath. Whatever this night was meant to be, panic would not help. Anger would not help. He did what humans had always done best when facing the unknown. He adapted. "All right," he said quietly. "If this is a test, then let's do it properly." Lyrics's eyes brightened just a little. "How so?" she asked. "Next time you slide closer," he said, "you ask first." For the first time since they met, Lyrics hesitated. Then slowly she nodded. "Yes," she said. "I believe that is important." And as the station settled deeper into its artificial night, two very different beings lay side by side, both realizing that the experiment had already begun to change in ways no one had planned. The station did not truly sleep. It only pretended to. Elias learned this as minutes stretched into something heavier. The hum beneath the bed never stopped, only shifted in tone, rising and falling like a distant tide. Lights along the wall pulsed faintly, slow enough to almost be soothing. Almost. Lyrics lay beside him, still and calm, her breathing shallow and controlled. She did not close her eyes. Elias noticed that right away. She stared at the ceiling as if watching something only she could see. He kept his hands folded on his chest, giving her space the best he could in a bed clearly not designed for two different species. His mind, however, refused to stay still. "This station feels watched," he said quietly. Lyrics turned her head toward him. "That is because it is." Elias did not react outwardly. Inside, every instinct sharpened. By who? By systems, by analysts, by those who built this place and wish to understand you. Understand or control, she considered that. Those words overlap more than your species prefers to admit. A faint vibration passed through the wall, stronger than before. Elias felt it in his ribs. "Is that normal?" he asked. "Yes," Lyrics said. "The outer ring is adjusting orbit to reduce energy draw. That's not what I meant." She looked at him again, studying his face. "You are sensitive to changes." "We had to be," Elias replied. "Our world didn't give warnings before things went wrong." That answer seemed to please her. She shifted slightly, adjusting her position so she could see him more clearly. This time she did not move closer without warning. "May I?" she asked. He glanced at her arm, then nodded. "Yes." She rested her forearm lightly against his side. The contact was gentle, deliberate. Elias noticed how careful she was being now, like someone learning a new rule and wanting to follow it exactly. "Your temperature increases when you are alert," Lyrics said. "So does yours," Elias replied, her lips curved. "You noticed." "Hard not to." They lay in silence for a while after that. Elias found himself listening, not just to the station but to Lyrics herself, her breathing pattern, the faint shift of her weight. She was alert but not tense. "What happens if I fail this evaluation?" he asked eventually. Lyrics did not answer right away. "When you say fail," she said slowly, "what do you imagine that means?" "That humans become a problem," Elias said. "That trade stops, that borders close, that someone decides we're too unpredictable to deal with." "That is one possibility," she said. "And the other, that you become something more dangerous," Lyrics replied. "An unknown." Elias let out a quiet breath. "We've been unknown before." "Yes," she said, "and it changed the balance of several regions." He turned his head to look at her. "Is that why you're here with me? Because they don't trust the data alone?" Lyrics met his gaze. Her eyes reflected the dim light, soft but sharp at the same time. "I volunteered," she said. That surprised him. "Why?" "Because humans do not fit well into models," she replied, "and because I wanted to see if closeness truly altered your decisions." "And does it?" She watched him carefully. "Does it?" Elias thought about that. About how his heartbeat had slowed since she started asking instead of assuming. About how the room felt less like a trap now and more like a shared space. "Yes," he said, "but not the way you think." "How so?" "It doesn't make us weak," he said. "It makes us honest." Lyrics absorbed that in silence. Another vibration rolled through the station, stronger this time. The lights flickered, then steadied. "That was not scheduled," she said quietly. Elias frowned. Meaning something changed." Before he could respond, the wall screen flickered to life without being touched. Symbols scrolled across it, alien script mixed with simplified trade language. Lyrics sat up slightly, her expression focused. "They are adjusting parameters." "Because of us?" Elias asked. "Yes." "What did we do?" "You did not pull away," she said, "and I did not press closer without consent." "That's bad. For the evaluation," Lyrics replied. "Yes." Elias huffed softly. Figures. The screen displayed a new message. Lyrics read it quickly, her eyes moving faster now. They want to increase stress, she said. Elia's shoulders tensed. How? The temperature will drop, the noise will increase, and they may simulate isolation protocols. Simulate? Lyrics did not answer. As if on cue, the warmth in the room faded. Air grew cooler enough that Elias felt a chill creep along his arms. The hum deepened, becoming louder, more uneven. That's subtle, he muttered. Lyrics lay back down, closer now but still careful. You should conserve heat. Are you suggesting? Yes, she said calmly. Elias hesitated only a second before shifting closer. This time the contact was mutual. Her shoulder pressed against his chest. Her head rested lightly near his collarbone. The station sensors, unseen, recorded everything. Lyrics's breathing changed just slightly. This is efficient, she said, sounding almost unsure. He smiled faintly. Welcome to human problem-solving. The noise increased again, a low mechanical thrum that made conversation harder. Elias raised his voice just enough to be heard. Do they know you volunteered? He asked. Yes. And they allowed it. They believed I would remain objective. And are you? Lyrics was quiet for a long moment. The station lights dimmed again, casting long shadows across the ceiling. I am trying to be, she said. Elias did not push further. He could feel her warmth now, steady and real, grounding in a way he hadn't expected. His body relaxed despite the cold and noise. Another message flashed on the screen. Lyrics glanced at it, then looked away. They are concerned, she said. About what? About your heart rate, she replied. It has stabilized. That's good, isn't it? Not for stress analysis. Elias chuckled softly. You're telling me your scientists do like it when people stay calm. They do not like it when variables adapt, Lyrics said. Well, he said, that's kind of our thing. The station shuddered suddenly, sharp enough to jolt them both. Lyrics's grip tightened instinctively, her fingers curling slightly into his sleeve. She froze, realizing what she had done. Sorry, she said quickly. It's okay, Elias replied, placing his hand gently over hers. You can hold on. She hesitated, then relaxed her grip, allowing her hand to remain there. I did not expect fear, she admitted quietly. Fear shows up when you care, Elias said, even if you don't mean it to. Her voice softened. That complicates things. Everything important is complicated, he replied. The noise slowly settled into a lower, steadier rhythm. The temperature remained cold but bearable. Minutes passed, then more. Lyrics shifted slightly, adjusting her position so she fit more comfortably against him. It felt natural now, not forced. Not part of an experiment, at least not to Elias. They are recording less usable data, she said after a while. Because we're not reacting the way they want. Yes, that might be a good thing, Elias said. It might be dangerous, Lyrics replied. For who? She looked up at him, her face close enough that he could see faint patterns in her skin he hadn't noticed before. For those who believe understanding leads to control, she said. The screen flickered once more, then went dark. Lyrics stiffened. That should not have happened. Is that bad? Elias asked. Yes. The hum of the station dropped suddenly, plunging the room into near silence. No vibration, no background noise, just the sound of their breathing. Isolation protocol. Elias felt it immediately. Humans were not meant for sudden silence like that. He resisted the urge to speak, focusing instead on the steady rise and fall of Lyrics's chest. They are pushing too far, she whispered. What happens now? He asked. Lyrics did not answer right away. Instead, she shifted again, pressing closer, her head resting fully against him now. Now, she said softly, we see how humans respond when the observers lose control. Elias tightened his arm around her slightly, not restraining, just anchoring. Then they picked the wrong night, he said, to underestimate us. In the quiet, with the station holding its breath, Lyrics closed her eyes for the first time. And somewhere beyond the walls, the watchers realized the experiment was no longer behaving as designed. Silence pressed against the room like a physical weight. Elias had never trusted silence. On ships, on stations, in the deep dark between stars, silence usually meant something had gone wrong. Systems were supposed to hum, air was supposed to move, life made noise. Kepra station made none. Lyrics lay against him, her body tense now, no longer relaxed. Her eyes were closed but not in rest. Elias could feel it in the way her breathing stayed controlled, too even, like she was holding herself still on purpose. "They've cut more than sound," she whispered. Elias kept his voice low. "What else?" "Passive monitoring," she said. "Environmental feedback, some internal sensors. So they're blind, partially," Lyrics replied. "They can still see core data but not nuance." Elias let out a slow breath. "That sounds like a mistake." "Yes," she said, "for them." Another few seconds passed. The air felt heavier now, colder without the background warmth of active systems. Elias shifted slightly, adjusting so Lyrics was more fully supported against him. This time, she did not hesitate or pull back. Her hand found his arm again, fingers curling lightly, not in fear exactly, but in grounding. "This was never meant to happen," she said quietly. "What part?" Elias asked. "The silence," Lyrics replied, "or you remaining calm." He smiled faintly, though she couldn't see it. "Humans have a long history of staying calm when everything else falls apart." "That contradicts much of our data," she said. "Your data probably focuses on how loud we are," Elias said. "We tend to get noisy when ignored." Lyrics considered that. "You are quieter than expected." "That's because I'm listening," he replied. A faint tremor ran through the bed, almost too small to notice. Lyrics felt it too. Her grip tightened for a moment before easing again. "That was internal," she said. "A system recalibrating without oversight." "Is that dangerous?" Elias asked. "Yes," Lyrics said honestly, "but not immediately." Elias nodded, even though she wasn't looking. He stared at the ceiling, eyes slowly adjusting to the darkness. Faint outlines of panels became visible, tiny imperfections. "Signs of age and rushed construction. This station isn't as stable as they claim," he said. "No," Lyrics agreed. "It was built quickly, to observe, not to endure." "That sounds familiar," Elias said. "We've done that too." Lyrics shifted slightly, turning her head so her cheek rested against his chest. She listened for a moment, then spoke softly. "Your heart rate has changed again." "Good or bad?" he asked. "Different," she said. "It slowed earlier. Now it is steady but stronger." "That's called focus," Elias replied. She was quiet for a long time after that. In the absence of noise, Elias became aware of small things. The way Lyrics's skin felt slightly cooler than his, but warmed where they touched. The faint, almost electric sensation where her arm crossed his side. The steady rhythm of her breathing. He realized something then. The evaluation had stopped feeling like a test to him. Whatever the observers were doing outside the room, whatever data they were scrambling to collect, no longer mattered in the same way. Lyrics shifted again, pushing herself up slightly so she could look at him. In the low light, her eyes reflected just enough to catch his attention. "You are not performing," she said. "No," Elias replied. "I'm just being here. That makes you unpredictable. That makes us human." Her gaze lingered on his face, searching. "You do not fear the consequences." "I respect them," he said, "but fear doesn't help anyone think." She studied him as if seeing something new, something that hadn't been in her models. "They expected resistance," she said, "or submission, not cooperation." Elias shrugged slightly. "Those aren't our only options." Another tremor ran through the station, stronger this time. Somewhere far away, metal groaned. Lyrics's eyes flicked toward the wall. "That should not be happening," she said, more sharply now. "System failure?" Elias asked. "System strain," she replied. "Multiple protocols conflicting." "Because of us?" "Yes," Lyrics said, "because you are invalidating assumptions faster than they can adjust." The silence broke suddenly with a sharp tone, brief and cutting. The wall screen flickered back to life, flashing warning symbols in rapid succession. Lyrics sat up fully now, all calm replaced with focus. They are trying to regain control. Can they? Elias asked. They can attempt to override, she said. But doing so too quickly risks cascading failure. That sounds bad for everyone, Elias said. Yes, Lyrics replied. The screen displayed a message in simplified trade language. Subject parameters deviating. They want me to move away. Elias looked at her. And do you want to? She hesitated. That single pause told him everything. I was trained to follow directives, she said quietly, but I was also trained to evaluate outcomes. And what's your evaluation? Elias asked. She looked back at the screen, then at him. If I move away, your stress response will spike. Their data will normalize. They will conclude humans are manageable under pressure. And if you do, then they will have to accept that closeness changes outcomes, she said. And that control is not guaranteed. Elias nodded slowly. That sounds like a conversation worth forcing. Lyrics let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She lay back down beside him, deliberately closing the space between them. This time, it was her choice. She placed her head against his chest again, her arm resting across him in a way that was no longer experimental. It was protective, mutual. The screen flashed again, warnings intensifying. Compliance required, Lyrics did not look at it. Elias wrapped his arm around her shoulders, steady and calm, not restraining, not possessive, just present. This might get uncomfortable, he said. She tilted her head slightly, listening to his heartbeat. It already is, she replied, but not in the way they predicted. The station shuddered again, lights flickering weakly as systems struggled to reconcile conflicting commands. They are escalating, Lyrics said. They will introduce simulated threat data next. What kind of threat? Elias asked. She hesitated. Predatory. Elias felt a familiar tightening in his gut. Against who? Against you, Lyrics said softly, to provoke a response. The lights dimmed further, shadows stretching unnaturally along the walls. A low sound emerged, artificial but unsettling, designed to trigger instinctive fear. Lyrics's body tensed instantly. Her breathing changed. Her grip tightened again, this time without thought. Elias did not move away. Instead, he spoke, calm and steady, close to her ear. It's not real. I know, she whispered, but my instincts do not care. Then borrow mine, he said. She looked up at him, eyes wide in the darkness. You would share that, she asked. Yes, Elias replied. That's kind of our specialty too. The sound grew louder, layered with vibrations that mimicked distant movement. The simulation was well designed. Even knowing it wasn't real, Elias could feel its effect. He adjusted his position slightly, grounding himself, grounding her. Slow breath in, slow breath out. Follow this, he murmured. In with me, out with me. Lyrics hesitated, then matched his breathing. Once, twice, 3 times, her tension eased fractionally. The screen flickered again, error symbols replacing warnings. Data inconsistent. Elias smiled faintly. They will. The simulated threat abruptly cut out, the sound vanished, the vibration stopped. Silence returned, but it felt different now. Less heavy, less hostile. The screen went dark completely. Lyrics sagged against him, exhaustion finally showing. They shut it down, she said. They could not isolate the response. Meaning? Elias asked. Meaning the evaluation is compromised, she replied. They cannot separate your reaction from mine. Elias rested his chin lightly against the top of her head. Then they learned something real. Yes, Lyrics said, something they did not want to. Outside the room, systems slowly began to hum again. Faint vibrations returned. The station, wounded but stable, resumed its careful balancing act. Lyrics stayed where she was. You could move now, Elias said gently. If you want, she shook her head slightly. Not yet. That's okay, he said. They lay there as the lights slowly brightened to a low resting level. No alarms, no messages, just the quiet return of normal function. After a long moment, Lyrics spoke again. Elias, yes, you changed the evaluation, she said. not by resisting but by caring. That tends to mess things up, he replied. She tilted her head, looking at him with something new in her expression, not curiosity, not analysis. Respect, they will respond to this, she said. Not kindly. Elias met her gaze. Neither do we. For the first time, Lyric smiled without calculation. And somewhere deep within Kepra Station, the observers faced an uncomfortable truth. The humans were not just adapting. They were influencing the system itself. The station returned to sound slowly, like a creature waking after a deep shock. The hum came back uneven at first, rising and falling, then settling into a steady rhythm. Air vents whispered again. The lights adjusted, no longer harsh or dim but balanced. Elias noticed the change before Lyric spoke. Humans were good at that too, feeling when a place shifted from danger to something else. "They're back online," he said quietly. "Yes," Lyrics replied, "but not in control." She was still close to him, her head resting against his chest. Neither of them moved right away. Whatever had passed between them during the silence had weight now. Not heavy, but real. The wall screen flickered to life again. This time there were no warning symbols, only text. Direct observation required. Lyric stiffened. "They are abandoning distance." "That sounds serious," Elias said. "It is," she replied. "They rarely intervene directly. It means the data has frightened them." Elias let out a slow breath. "Good." She shifted, pushing herself upright, though she did not move away completely. Her expression was calm but focused, like someone preparing for a difficult conversation. "They will come," she said, "physically." "Into the room?" Elias asked. "Yes. Observers." "And security," Lyrics added. "They will want to reassert authority." Elias sat up as well, rolling his shoulders slightly, grounding himself. "Are they dangerous? To you?" she asked. "Yes," she hesitated. "Only if you resist." Elias nodded. "That depends on what they call resistance." The door panel chimed softly once. Not an alarm, a request. Lyric stood. Her posture changed, becoming more formal, more aligned with the role she had been trained for. "Do you want me to handle this?" she asked him quietly. Elias studied her face. He could see the conflict there now, clear and unhidden. Duty pulling one way, experience pulling another. "No," he said gently. "We handle it together." Her eyes widened slightly. Then she nodded. "Yes," she said, "together." The door slid open. 3 figures entered. 2 were tall, broad, clearly security. Their armor was smooth and dark, faces hidden behind reflective visors. The third was shorter, robed in layered fabric marked with faint symbols that pulsed softly. An analyst. The air in the room felt tighter instantly, like pressure had changed. "Envoy Elias Mercer," the analyst said, voice cool and measured. "You have deviated from expected behavioral parameters." Elias stood calmly. "That tends to happen when expectations are wrong." The analyst's gaze shifted to Lyrics. "Liaison Lyrics, you were instructed to maintain objectivity." "I did," Lyrics replied. "I observed accurately." "You interfered," the analyst said. Lyrics did not lower her gaze. "I adapted. That was not your role." "It is now," she said quietly. The analyst turned fully toward Elias. "The evaluation is suspended. You will be relocated." Elias crossed his arms loosely. "Relocated where?" "To a controlled environment," the analyst said, "for continued assessment." Lyrics's hand twitched at her side. Elias noticed. "And if I refuse?" Elias asked. The security figures shifted slightly, not threatening, just enough to be noticed. "Refusal will be logged," the analyst said. "Consequences will follow." Elias nodded slowly. "Then log this." He stepped half a pace closer to Lyrics, not touching, just aligned. "I am a diplomatic envoy," he said. "You invited me here under treaty protection. You conducted an unauthorized psychological evaluation without consent. And now you want to isolate me because the results don't suit you." The analyst was silent for a moment. "Your interpretation is creative." "It's accurate," Elias replied. "And if you proceed, every human listening post within range will know." Lyrics turned sharply toward him. You did not tell me you had transmitted. I didn't, Elias said, but you don't know that. The analyst studied him more closely now. You are bluffing, the analyst said. Elias smiled faintly. Maybe. That uncertainty hung in the air, sharp and uncomfortable. Lyric stepped forward then, moving between Elias and the analyst. It was a clear choice, a visible one. You asked what humans are, she said. You tested them under stress. You tried to break their patterns. And, the analyst asked. And you found something you cannot measure, Lyric said. They adapt through connection, through shared burden, through choice. That makes them unstable, the analyst replied. No, Lyric said firmly. It makes them influential. The analyst's symbols pulsed brighter. That influence is exactly the concern. Elias spoke again, voice calm but strong. You're afraid because you couldn't isolate me, because when you pushed I didn't fracture, I connected. You compromised a trained liaison, the analyst said sharply. Lyrics did not flinch. I was not compromised, I was informed. Silence followed. Then the analyst raised one hand slightly. The security figures froze in place. You will both be heard, the analyst said, but not here. The lights shifted. The wall behind them slid open, revealing a corridor Elias had not seen before. Wider, brighter, clearly important. Walk, the analyst said. Elias glanced at Lyrics. She met his gaze steady. Stay close, she murmured. They walked. The corridor led to a chamber at the heart of the station. Open, circular, with a raised platform in the center. Transparent panels revealed layers of machinery and stars beyond. Several figures waited there. Analysts, observers, decision-makers. Elias felt the weight of their attention like gravity. This is unnecessary, one of them said. The data is already corrupted. No, Lyrics replied. It is complete. A ripple of quiet reaction moved through the chamber. You speak beyond your authority, another voice said. I speak from observation, Lyrics replied, which was my assignment. Elias stepped forward slightly. If you want to understand humans, he said, stop trying to break us into pieces small enough to control. Control ensures stability, one observer said. No, Elias said. Trust does. That is naive, another replied. Elias shook his head. It's tested. Lyrics turned to the group. Your models assume dominance or submission, she said. Humans do neither by default. They cooperate when respected. And when they are not, an observer asked. They resist, Elias said simply, but not always loudly. The chamber was quiet again. You risk much by standing here, one observer said to Lyrics. Yes, she agreed. So do you. The analyst who had escorted them stepped forward. The station experienced strain during the evaluation, they said, near failure. Because you forced conflict into a system built on balance, Lyrics replied. And you suggest what? The analyst asked. Lyrics took a breath. Partnership. Observation with consent. Shared parameters. The observers exchanged silent signals. And if we refuse, one asked. Elias met their gaze. Then humans will still come, still explore, still connect, with or without your approval. That sounds like a threat, an observer said. It's a fact, Elias replied, more silence. Finally, the lead observer spoke. The evaluation is terminated, they said. Results inconclusive, Lyrics straightened. Incorrect. Results are clear, you simply do not like them. The observer studied her. You have changed. Yes, Lyrics said, so has your understanding. The lead observer turned to Elias. You will remain on the station under revised terms. Defined how? Elias asked. As a guest, the observer said slowly, not a subject. Elias nodded. That's a start. Lyrics exhaled, tension easing from her posture for the first time since the door opened. You will submit a full report, the observer told her. I will, she replied. Accurately. The chamber lights softened. The pressure eased. As they were escorted back toward the residential ring, Elias leaned closer to Lyrics. You did good, he said quietly. She looked at him. You changed the balance. Not alone, he replied. They stopped outside the quarters. The same small room, the same door. Lyrics hesitated. This space is no longer assigned. Elias smiled. We can find another. She shook her head slowly. No, this one is familiar. The door slid open. Inside, the room felt different now. Not like a test chamber, not like a trap, just a room. As the door closed behind them, Lyrics spoke softly. They will watch us differently now. Elias nodded. They always do after first contact. She looked at him, curiosity and respect mixing again. You are not what they expected, she said. Elias smiled. Neither are you. And somewhere deep within the station, protocols were rewritten, not because of force or fear, but because two beings had refused to be reduced to data points. The room felt quieter than before, even though the station had fully returned to normal operation. The hum was steady now, familiar instead of threatening. The lights were warm and constant, nothing flickered, nothing watched openly. Elias stood near the wall, setting his bag down where it had been hours ago. It felt like a lifetime had passed since then. Lyrics remained near the door for a moment, as if expecting it to reopen and pull them back into another confrontation. When it did not, she relaxed slightly. It is over, she said, more to herself than to him. For tonight, Elias replied. She nodded. Yes, for tonight. They stood in silence, not awkward, just thoughtful. What they had done could not be undone. The observers had backed away, but not forgotten. Nothing like this was ever forgotten. Lyrics moved first, crossing the room and sitting on the edge of the bed. She rested her hands on her knees, posture straight but no longer rigid. I will be reassigned after this, she said. Elias looked at her. Punished. Reviewed, she corrected. Questioned. Possibly removed from observational duty. That doesn't sound like a promotion. Her lips curved faintly. Change rarely does. Elias leaned against the wall, arms folded loosely. Do you regret it? Lyrics looked up at him. The question clearly mattered. No, she said. I regret that it took stress and silence to show what should have been obvious. And what's that? That understanding cannot be forced, she said. It must be shared. Elias smiled. You sound like a human diplomat already. I will take that as a compliment, she replied. Another quiet moment passed. The station felt larger now, less confining. As if the walls themselves had relaxed. They're going to tell your people something, Lyrics said. Not everything, but enough. And what will that be? Elias asked. She thought carefully. That humans are not predictable under pressure. That isolation does not weaken you the way it does others, and that connection is not a vulnerability. Elias nodded slowly. That's a dangerous lesson. Yes, Lyrics agreed. For anyone who believes control is the same as peace. She stood and moved closer, stopping an arm's length away. This time the space between them felt intentional, not enforced. You also changed my people's view of consent, she added. That will have consequences. Good ones? Elias asked. Eventually, she said. But first, uncomfortable ones. He chuckled softly. Welcome to progress. Lyrics studied his face again, the way she had when they first met, but without analysis now, without distance. You were calm when fear was expected, she said. Why? Elias shrugged. Fear narrows options, calm opens them. That is not instinctual, she said. No, he agreed. It's learned, usually the hard way. She nodded, accepting that. Outside the room, footsteps passed, not stopping, not watching, just moving on. They are keeping their distance, Lyrics observed. Because they don't know what happens if they don't, Elias replied. She looked thoughtful. You influence systems without touching them. That's another human habit, he said. We're good at ripple effects. Lyrics hesitated, then sat back down on the bed, not as part of a test, not because there was no other option, because she chose to. Elias joined her, leaving space until she glanced at him and nodded once. He moved closer then, sitting beside her. The bed was still small. Still only one, but it no longer felt like a constraint. What happens next? Elias asked. For you, Lyrics said, formal meetings, revised agreements, many conversations. And for you, she took a slow breath. I will speak honestly in my report. That alone might scare them more than anything we did tonight, Elias said. Yes, she replied, but it is necessary. They sat quietly, shoulders almost touching, the station steady around them. You know, Elias said after a while, back home, stories like this never start with a test. They start with a misunderstanding. Lyrics tilted her head. And how do they end? Usually with someone realizing the other side was never the enemy, he said. She considered that. And sometimes with everything changing, he replied. She looked at him then, really looked at him, not as a subject, not as a variable, as a person. I believe this will be one of those times, she said. The lights dimmed slightly as the station shifted into a rest cycle, not enforced, optional. Lyrics lay back against the wall, stretching her legs out along the bed. She paused, then looked at Elias. May I? She asked. He smiled. You don't have to ask any more. But I appreciate that you do. She lay back, settling beside him, close but not pressing, comfortable. Elias rested his hands behind his head, staring at the ceiling. For the first time since arriving, his mind felt quiet. They will watch how we interact from now on, Lyrics said softly. Let them, Elias replied. We're not doing anything wrong. No, she agreed. You are doing something unfamiliar. That made him smile. Minutes passed, then more. Neither of them rushed to fill the silence. Lyrics's breathing slowed, not controlled now, natural. Elias, she said quietly, yes. If my people ask why this evaluation failed, she said, what should I tell them? He thought for a moment. Tell them it didn't fail, it evolved. She nodded, liking that answer. And if they ask why you stayed calm, she added. He turned his head slightly toward her. Tell them I wasn't alone. Her eyes softened. Outside the station, stars drifted slowly past, uncaring and constant. Inside, something new had settled into place. Not a treaty. Not an alliance. An understanding. As the station lights dimmed further and the night cycle deepened, two beings from different worlds rested side by side. Not because they were forced to, not because a system demanded it, but because they chose to share the space. And somewhere far beyond Kepra Station, the ripple had already begun, spreading through channels and councils, carrying a simple, unsettling truth. Humanity did not conquer through strength alone. They changed the rules by refusing to face the universe alone.